Hey gang, Rick with Let's Level Up here, and today we're going to be looking at one of Alderac Entertainment Group's, or AEG's, new publishing games. This is actually one created by a guy named Tom Cleaver, and it's called Valley of the Kings. Now this is a Egyptian-themed deck builder, and I'm not a huge fan of deck builders. I think they're a bit outdone at this point, but I am a huge fan of anybody who can innovate a game, especially one as well established as a deck builder, and give you something new with it. That's what Tom Cleaver has given us. He offers you a couple twists on the way standard deck builders are made, with the way particularly scoring and how you're going to buy from your stock of cards that really make Valley of the Kings stand out in a sea of deck builders. So follow us to the table. I'm going to show you a little bit of how to play it, what I think about it, and then after that we'll give you our final thoughts. So Tom Cleaver's Valley of the Kings is actually going to be an Egyptian-based deck builder. And we play the pharaohs who are ascending into the afterlife, right? And our goal is going to be to stock our tombs full of all of our worldly treasures, because of course, in the eyes of the pharaohs, we were able to take that with us when we crossed over into the afterlife. Now, to start things out, you're going to want to open up the box, empty out the contents, and give every player one of these two cards here. They're going to get a tomb card, and they're also going to get a taking a turn quick rules reference card. The tomb card is important, and it represents any cards that we're going to score. We have to entomb them, so we're going to essentially put them behind our tomb, and then that way we're going to know whether or not we have actually scored those at the end of the game. Now, if you're unfamiliar with deck builders, I should tell you a little bit beforehand. Essentially, what a deck builder is that we're going to have a deck of cards that we're going to be building throughout the game. And by that, I mean we're going to start out with pretty common cards, or in this game, they call them level 1 cards. And these are going to represent different artifacts or tokens or food stashes or incense or things like that that we're going to want to be taking with us on our journey into the afterlife. These level 1 cards generally get progressively more powerful as we get into the deeper levels. So the game is actually going to divide the deck that we're going to be buying from into 2 different levels as well. And you can see that these are all going to be color coded, and that's how the matches are going to be. But they're divided into level 3, as you can see here in the bottom right hand corner, and level 2, with the level 2 cards being on the top of the deck and the level 3 cards being at the bottom of the deck. That way it's going to take a little bit more time to get things, but we'll get into those cards here in a second. Let me clear this out of the way. So our starting cards are going to be things like the Shabti. The Shabti is cost of 2, which we don't have to worry about. It's going to yield 1 point or 1 gold when it comes to buying things. It has the action that says swap 2 cards in the pyramid or sacrifice a card in the pyramid. So this is a way for us to, again, we can either play this card for gold and buy cards from our pyramid, or we can play the action on these cards, which is very interesting. There is going to be an urn as well. The urn, again, it's cost of 2, gives you 1 gold to buy things with. And it says put the top card of your discard pile on the top of your deck. And this actually is interesting. The urn lets you basically buy a card from the pyramid and then immediately put that on the top of your deck so you know you're going to have it in your hand in the pyramid. So essentially in a deck builder, we're going to have these little level 1 cards, and there's going to come a point where level 1 cards aren't really going to be worth the squeeze anymore. So we're going to want to make sure that we can get those out of our deck, so that way whenever we're buying the level 2s and level 3s, we have a better chance to draw them. And that's what's called building your engine. So generally in a deck builder, you're going to have a theme of what you want your deck to be. You're going to want to buy the cards that synergize most with your theme. We're also going to have a box of food, and again, 1 gold, and you can see all these basically follow the same sort of thing, but give you different unique actions per card, which is really nice. So sacrifice a card in your hand and then entomb a card with a lower cost. So one of the things that you can do in this game is once per round you can willingly entomb a card from your hand. But you can only ever do 1 unless you have other cards that allow you to take additional entombments, such as the box of food. And finally, we're going to have the offering table. Now, the offering table, again, worth 1, and it says when an opponent's action would cause you to discard a sacrifice, reveal offering table, and prevent the action from affecting you. So this is kind of like no, not today. The offering table allows you to, again, basically put up a block up against somebody's action who would make you willingly get rid of one of your cards, or rather unwillingly, when you may not want to. So these cards are going to basically, you're going to have multiple copies of everything except for the offering table. I think there's 4 shop teas, 3 urns, 2 boxes of food, and 1 offering table. And you're going to shuffle all of these up, and it's going to form your hand. I'll give these a quick shuffle. And then you're going to draw 5. So you can see our starting hand, we've got 1 box of food, 1 offering table, 1 shop tea, and 2 urns. So on our turn, we get to actually play cards and buy from the stack. So I could play 3 of these cards down for their gold value, keeping the other 2 in my hand, and maybe buy something from the pyramid with a cost of 2 or less. So now that we looked a little bit at the player space, let's look at the overall game board and give you a little bit of rundown on how the pyramid works, along with the stockpile and the boneyard. Okay, so here's just a better example of how the board is going to look. Now, every player is going to have their hand. They'll have a discard pile over here next to their hand. They'll have their tomb, and then the reference card if needed. You're going to have the central deck who are in reach of all players, and this is going to be called the stockpile. And from the stockpile, we're actually going to be able to create our pyramid, which we're going to then be able to buy things with. And the pyramid is a very unique aspect, I think, when it comes to deck builders. So, for instance, we're going to be able to buy cards from the pyramid, but we're only going to be able to buy from the base of the pyramid. And the pyramid looks something like this. So we'll take 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards, and then we'll do 2 on top, and then 1 there at the very top. Okay, so it'll look something like that. Before you actually start playing, you're going to move your stockpile over, and you're actually going to burn the top card here, and that'll be known as the start of the boneyard. So that's basically everything that is out of the game, unless you have a card that says otherwise. So here at the pyramid, and let me actually get a closer shot of this. So again, anytime we're wanting to buy cards from the pyramid, we can only pick from the bottom of the pyramid. Fortunately for us, anytime that we do that, the pyramid's actually going to crumble. So let's say that this Book of Traversing Eternity here costs 4. We'll be able to pay 4 gold from our hand and buy it. When we do that, this card here is actually going to crumble down, and the card here on top is going to crumble down. And then at the end of our turn, whenever we're ready to finish our action step, we'll actually rebuild the rebuild the pyramid here with the top card from the stockpile, so that everybody has a chance to buy the next thing. Now again, the level 2s are going to be on top of the deck, the level 3s are going to be on the bottom. So the game is going to get progressively more, or rather exponentially more powerful as the game goes on. The game is over when all cards from the stockpile are gone and all cards from the pyramid are gone. At that point, everybody is going to, and everybody has taken an equal number of turns. And then at that point, we're all going to take the cards from beneath our tomb and calculate a total amount of points. Now, as we're entombing things, things are going to get stronger depending on the color of what we have. So there's a little bit of color or suit matching here. Each of these will be able to give us points depending on how many unique cards that we have in here. So the books all have a different, so there's the Book of the Earth, Book of Traversing Eternity, there's a couple other books. If I have multiple copies of these in my tomb, it's really, multiple non-unique copies, for instance, 2 Books of Traversing Eternity in my tomb, they're not going to count as bonus points. But if I had the Book of Earth and the Book of Traversing Eternity within my tomb, that's going to be multiplier. So basically each number of these is going to give us a bigger multiplier. Okay, so quick example here of scoring goes. Let's say I had these 3 blue cards in my deck. That's going to give me 9 points. So basically I'm going to multiply the unique number that I have with themselves. So for instance, if I have 3 times 3 is going to be 9. If I had 4, we'd have 16 points. 5, 25. If I had 7, there'd be 49. And the most in each set is 7. So some sets have a lot, or have more number of cards. Some sets have fewer number of cards, and then there's some duplicates of each within here to make things even more interesting. So I think that's actually really good when it comes to making everything work together. Is again setting up your sets within your tombs. That way you can bank on those before your opponents can. This game is going to be pretty well balanced in that aspect as long as you're paying attention. You're going to want to make sure that you're putting in unique cards into your tomb and potentially denying your opponent from getting cards that would make those multipliers even more. So if you notice the player across the table from you has just been banking on all of these blue cards, you're going to make sure you're going to try to take some of those from them or give them the ability, rather push the ability out of them where they have to remove those from the game, which is going to, again, be a pretty aggressive strategy, but one that I really like that we can do within this game. Again, deck builders, not necessarily the most unique type of game right now, but because of the pyramid and because of the tomb aspect, Valley of the Kings actually provides a very refreshing take on a deck builder, and I really, really appreciate that. So the things you can do on your turn are basically followed in a 4-step order. The first step is going to be to play cards from your hand. And again, you can either lay those down and just total up the number of gold to be able to buy cards from the base of the pyramid, or you can execute the action listed on the card as well. You're going to keep the cards that you have played just basically in front of your play area, letting you know you've played them this turn. And then at the end of the round, you're going to basically discard what you've got. Actually, in the next step is the discard step. So you'll take everything that you played and everything that you bought, and you'll discard it. Then you're going to rebuild the pyramid. So if I were to buy this card here on my turn, this card would crumble, this card would crumble, and then at the third step, we'd rebuild this one here. If I were to buy 2 cards, let's say, and then I bought this one as well, this card would crumble, we'd put this one here, and we'd add another one there. After that, we're going to discard all of these cards again and then draw a new hand of 5 cards. And then it's going to be the next player who's going to be able to take their turn. And we're going to repeat this process, playing actions, buying cards, and going to the tomb in order to get points until, again, all of these cards are gone and all of these cards are gone. And then everybody has taken an equal number of turns, and then we calculate how many points we've got. Well, that's it for Valley of the Kings. Now, I really like this game. I think AEG and Tom Cleaver, the developer of this game, really have something unique here. And unique, when you're talking about deck builders, is a very rare breed indeed. I really like the fact that in order for me to be able to score my cards, I have to permanently remove them from my deck by entombing them into my tomb. I also really like the fact that the pyramid mechanic is in place, because that's going to give us more time to be able to strategize and more time to be able to think of something to be able to get the cards in place. So if I want that top card on the pyramid, I at least have to worry about getting rid of 2 from the lesser rows before I can get that one. So it's nice to be able to have that little bit of buffer, and it's really cool. And there's the other mechanics like swap that allow you to really take advantage of that and have some very interesting surprise plays. So Valley of the King, it's a very small box. You get a lot of game in this box, and I think it's one of those things that has a little bit of staying power in, again, a crowded sea of deck builders. So AEG, Tom, thank you so much for letting us take a look at this. We really appreciate it. I really like Valley of the Kings, and I think you guys should definitely take a look at it at your friendly local game stores. Pick it up online at Amazon or Cool Stuff Inc. And check them out at any of the conventions that you guys may be going through. I'm sure all the guys at AEG would like to tell you about this. So on behalf of everybody here at Let's Level Up, thank you so much for watching. If you did like the video, we appreciate a thumbs up on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell your friends. That would really help me out so much. And yeah, most importantly, game on.